course, whenever we deploy application, it's almost like throwing a big party, right?
Mhm.
So you throw a massive party, you know, aka deploying your application, and you're like, yeah, I finally got it, into the cloud. And and then you try to send out the invites, of course, whereby you use some CLI commands, and then boom, everything crashes. You get the 404 error, and you're like, I did everything right. I used all the CLI commands, I deployed everything right into the cloud. Why is this happening? So basically, your app is probably saying, hey, no one's home today. What's really happening behind the scenes? I mean, why the 404 error?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, in order to first of all avoid that, when you build like the production infrastructure, right, UAT or development should be built the same way, right? Like in production, if you are using like ECS or
Mhm.
like cloud run in GCP, right, the same thing should be used for development. So you have identical infrastructure, and this is how you can prevent these kind of problems, right?
Yeah.
So, and apart from like unit tests, apart from regression tests,
Yeah.
when you build this and then when you test development and UAT environment, you should
Okay.
be fine with production infrastructure in UAT environment and also in production. Because UAT, you test it before going live, right? So you're
Yeah.
working with this every day. Your client is testing, right? The other team members are working with this environment. So when it is
Absolutely.
good, then production should be good as well.
Absolutely. You just mentioned something really valuable. Actually testing it in the UAT first before putting it into live production.
Yeah, yes, for sure.
In this regards, I mean, I'm just thinking, is this where Kubernetes and Docker also play a really good role in making sure that all of, the applications, sort of like are well managed inside one container, and then that avoids any probably like broken assets or anything that might cause the fall for error.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Like Dockerization are very helpful here.
Mm-hmm.
Even you can build the same Docker image locally, like developer can build this Docker image locally, run and
Okay.
test, right? Or you can, if there is a problem here, you can get the image, like Docker image, and try to run in another environment to find out the problem, right? So
Yeah.
that's why nowadays people tend to maybe for development, they still, even if they don't use Docker, but like for production or cloud, they should use Docker because it's very helpful.
Awesome. That is really good to know. Absolutely. So we have these various cloud services with amazing features. I mean, sometimes,
Mm.
as a DevOps or as a solution engineer lead, you know, having to choose which cloud service you want to use for building an application. I mean, sometimes I don't know about you, but I used to feel like, oh, which one do I go with? So obviously, it's just like picking your favorite chocolate. Like, okay, this is my favorite. Oh, that's my favorite. So my question is, are you team AWS, team Azure, or just the cool kid Google Cloud Platform?
Uh, Nowadays work mostly with GCP, like Google Cloud and AWS.
Okay.
However, I use also some new other like serverless platforms like render.com, and I use Fly.io, especially for UAT
Oh,
environments. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I like AWS and GCP because I know so much about this and I can easily set up infrastructure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Okay.
these two are my favorite.
Okay. So basically, they're your favorite because you're used to them, or why are they your favorite? Why do you choose them?
Yeah, actually, there are many resources about this, right? So many people use it and they are very reliable. And they
Okay.
have, apart from like providing one service, let's say let's say ECS Fargate, right? Or Kubernetes. Let's talk about AWS, right? but they
Yeah.
provide also so many other services that I use the same like account to build all these services, and they are
Yeah.
both good because they have these AIM roles, right? Users, both
Mm,
GCP and AWS. So
mhm.
like you can like really build very good infrastructure and
Yeah.
using various services. Let's
Absolutely. I mean, it's just like, having all your tools in one toolbox.
yes, that's correct.
Awesome. And just because, you just spoke about AI, this question is regarding AI. So we know that cloud plus AI is like peanut butter and jelly. So
Mhm,
now, if jelly could predict the stock market, and with all of these fancy tools that you just talked about, like AWS Bedrock, Titanium, Microsoft AI Foundry, and just so many others. There's just so many AI tools that we have out there in the cloud service
mhm.
market. So basically, what kind of superhero powers does the cloud give developers when they're building AI and IoT stuffs?
Sure. Oh yeah, this is a big topic. AI is nowadays, I find it very helpful and I use it to be more productive and to
Okay.
deliver faster than I was doing before, right? Basically, it's very helpful. You save, like as a developer or engineering lead, I save a lot of time because of AI. And
Okay.
and it's also developing every day, right? So in
Hmm.
future, we might have like totally different picture.
Yeah.
However, this is something I think we need to take advantage and use it instead of worrying too much that it might replace us or, whatever people worry right now, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Absolutely.
I think it's very positive. So just,
Oh,
yeah.
awesome. Awesome. I mean, it's great to know that, it does save developers a ton of hours,
Hmm.
doing for pretty much everything that, developers, software
Hmm.
engineers, DevOps, and pretty much everyone within the tech ecosystem does. Like, it's really helpful in terms of productivity. So I
Hmm.
think, I think that is the superpower AI gives to the tech people.
Hmm.
Okay, so there is another service cloud service offers, which is the virtual machines. Well, I always say virtual machines are like Airbnb
Hmm.
for developers, because obviously engineers could pretty much work from anywhere, you know. But basically, how reliable are they really? Do they hold up under pressure, or do they sometimes just check out? How reliable are virtual machines?
With Docker or virtual machine, so I can
Mhm.
set up your, development environment in virtual machine, and then you start using it because things are changing. You are changing version, so you are changing different things. So you can't have everything in your local machine. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why it would be great if the virtual machine, if we had something like, for example, something that maybe you were working in, let's take for instance, you're working in Toronto, and of course, you are based in Vancouver, and then what happens is you get to use the virtual machine that the head office in Toronto is, allows you to work on their applications. So I think, how reliable would that be, knowing that, the virtual machine is somewhere, in
Mm,
or somewhere else, and you are in Vancouver having to work. So basically, if anything happens to the virtual machine in Toronto, does that disrupt your work? And that is where the reliability
mm,
comes. Yeah,
mhm.
obviously, when it comes to projects, every project has a time frame, timeline, and that everything has to be delivered on time.
Yeah.
So my question is, how reliable are virtual machines in this context?
Yeah, this is a very good question. So, virtual machines are like important to, the
Yeah,
performance, right? Because we
yeah,
connect it remotely. I connect from Vancouver, I connect from Armenia. Is it going to be the same performance? Is it going to be fast enough so I can develop my code?
Absolutely.
If yeah, yeah. So this is another important question.
Yeah, that as well. I mean, it's better
Mm,
to get on the cloud train. So just because you mentioned EC2 services that AWS offers, so let's say you were deploying an application and suddenly the clouds are asking if you want to be in America, in Europe, or any part of the world. What's really going on with the geolocation choices within the cloud services?
yeah. So yeah, this geolocation is very important part because let's say if your software is in uh, America, right? And so
Okay.
that is also nature of the software, what data you have, right? If it is like
Hmm.
medical information, then definitely it can't be any other region. It must be
Okay.
in America. Let's say you
Ah,
are in a West Coast, so you might use like, California region,
mhm.
and the same in Canada, right? Let's say
Yeah.
we are building like lawyer referral service. So for
Okay.
Canadian clients, we store data in Canada. For US clients, we store data in US. So first question is where you want to store data. This is like
Okay.
related also to regulations and data security. And
Okay.
so if you don't have this problem, you just choose whatever you like, and because some are like relatively cheaper,
Okay.
some like relatively expensive, and it could also a little bit be connected with where are your clients, right? So
Absolutely. Okay. It makes a lot of sense now. Where
yeah,
do you want to get clients from, or where are your clients based?
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. That is a great answer. Yeah. Such an amazing time. I didn't want it to end.
yeah.
But of course, my final question is, let's say I've never heard of the cloud architecture or what the cloud service is all about. And I think it's really cool. Well, basically because I watched Cassell and Garnick talk about cloud services on Tech
Mhm.
Laughs and Bytes. Now, what are the basic must know? I mean, the juicy stuffs that cloud services offers for someone who's just stepping into the cloud world.
Uh, yeah. So the yeah, okay. So the person who is coming from on-premise to cloud, the one
Absolutely.
important thing, yeah, that there is so many nice tools to scale, right? And
Okay.
it doesn't like you don't do it everything manually. There are like auto scaling, like ability that is
Okay.
very helpful. So it scale when it's need to, when it doesn't need to, it use less service, like less resources, right? The scalability part, and also having just one big toolbox for your product, so you don't deal with different like companies, different services, right? So you just deal with one organization. Those two are very important.
Absolutely. So the fact that they know they would see the value in security, in
Mhm.
scalability, and of course, just kind of like an all-round performance of the
Yes.
application is definitely why they should go into, or rather start using cloud
Yeah.
services.
Yes. Sure.
Awesome.